We're going to look at solving rational equations and inequalities. On the first example, it's about some music download service like you have with the iPads. And this says the music download service advertised downloads for $1 per song. The service also charges a monthly access fee of $15. If a customer downloads songs in 1 month, the bill would, in dollars, would be this little equation we have here. The $15 plus the number of songs divided by how many songs. So you kind of have to add in that $15. So how do we find out how many songs a person would need to download to make the actual cost $1.25? All right, well, what that means is we want to put our equation up here, 15 plus x over x equal to $1.25. So we got to solve for x. How many songs? Now, if you look at this one, if we want to solve this, we see that left side's divided by x. How do you undo division? We would want to multiply. Multiply by x. Multiply by x. The x's cancel out. And now we can go through and solve. And we've done problems like this before. Now that you have that, go through and combine or get your x's together, get your numbers on the opposite side and solve. So it looks like if we got our x's together by subtracting an x, and we know this is like a 1x, we would end up with 15 equal to 0.25x. Dividing by 0.25, we'd find out that it would be 60. 60 songs would need to be downloaded to get the actual cost down to $1.25, considering the $15 we have to pay per month. This type of solving is solving with rational equations. Now, you've done some like this before. We're going to look at another example of ones you've done, and then we're going to get into some that you probably haven't done yet and look at how we solve those. All right, so kind of going back, just kind of review again. Rational equation, that's any equation that contains one or more rational expressions. And we've seen it. Here would be an example of maybe a rational expression, 1 over x plus 3, something like this, equal to, I don't know, 3 over x minus 2. Both of them are rational expressions. We see that we have one of them equal to, we got an equal sign here, equal to another one. Now, how can you solve these? We've seen before in geometry, in algebra, you've seen these. It's basically a fraction equal to a fraction. One way to solve would be to cross multiply. So if we cross multiply at this point, we could look to get our answer. So if we multiply 1 times x minus 2, 1 times anything is just going to be itself. If we cross multiply the other way, now we have 3 times the quantity x plus 3. Looks like we're going to have to do some distributing to solve. Be plus 9. Get your x's together, get your numbers together. We could subtract an x. We could subtract 9 now. If we subtract 9 from -2, we get -11. Divide by 2, and we'd get the answer would be -11/2. And you've seen this before. That's one way of doing it. Now, we're going to get into some, though, that you haven't seen before that are a little bit more difficult, like the problem in number 2. This is an example of a problem where we have the addition of 2 rational expressions on one side equal to a numerical answer on the other side. Unfortunately, here we can't cross multiply. There wouldn't be a way to cross multiply on this one to get it because we got the plus on the left-hand side here. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to get a common denominator. Our first step here, we want to find what's the lowest common or least common denominator for all 3 of those denominator terms. Well, least common denominator means we need to have everything. So if we look at this, we're definitely going to need the z plus 2 term in our common denominator. We're also going to need what's the lowest common multiple of both 28 and 4. Lowest common multiple would be 28. 4 goes into 28. So our common denominator that we're going to need to get for all our fractions is 28 times the quantity z plus 2. So for all our fractions, we want that common denominator. Now our goal is to, up top is to go back and figure out what are we going to have to multiply by now to get that denominator. So looking at our first fraction here, what should we multiply it by? Well, we already got the 28 right here. What we're missing is the z plus 2. So this first fraction, we're going to multiply by z plus 2. And again, whatever you multiply on bottom, you got to multiply on top. All right, let's look at our next fraction. What's that one missing from our common denominator? It doesn't have the 28. So this one we're going to multiply by 28 and 28. Our last fraction, the one on the right-hand side of the equals, this is missing a couple of things here. First off, we need to get to 28. So what do we even got to multiply 4 by to get to 28? 7. So we're going to have to times by 7. And it's also missing that z plus 2 quantity. So we're going to have to also multiply by z plus 2. Okay, now we should have, if we do all this multiplication here, here, and here, we'll get those common denominators. Now we got to go up top in the numerators and figure out, if we make the multiplication, what do we have? On the first fraction, we got the quantity 9 times z plus 2. We're going to distribute. So we end up with 9z plus 18. Okay, on the next one, we have 28 times 3. If we do 28 times 3, we're going to get the quantity 84. Okay, in the last one, we can first multiply that 3 times 7. If we multiply 3 times 7, it's 21. Now distribute 21. So we get 21z plus 42. Okay. Now, the right-hand side, we got a single fraction. On the left-hand side, we're adding two fractions. We have a common denominator. If we have a common denominator, we can add those together. So let's make that into a single fraction now with the denominator 28 z plus 2. Now that we have common denominators on both sides, this would be similar to the example we did in this problem. Single one, we could cross multiply to solve. Now, if we go back to our problem, if we cross multiply, we can get it. However, notice that our denominators are the same thing in both. If you have the same denominator and you cross multiply, those will cancel out. So really, all this stuff right here simply would drop out of our problem. We don't need to worry about this stuff anymore. So our problem becomes just solving the numerator. If we can solve the numerator, we can solve the problem. Numerator, we've done lots of problems like this. It's just an algebra equation I'll go through and solve. Let's combine the 18 and 84 on the one side of the equation. So now we have 9z equals, or I'm sorry, not equals, plus 102 equals 21z plus 42. Okay, keep solving. We could subtract 9z from 21. That would give us 12z. We could also subtract 42 from 102. That gives us 60. Now divide by 12. And it looks like our answer is 5. So once we've solved for x, now we got our answer. Now, kind of like we did on some of these other problems from the last chapter, you always want to check, does our solution actually work? And it's always a good idea to go back, plug it in, and check just to make sure, because sometimes you get answers that are called extraneous solutions. So let's check. If we plug 5 back in for z, we got 3 over 5 plus 2, that's the same as 3/7. So if we add 9 over 28 plus 3 over 7, we want to check, does it equal 3/4? If we go on a calculator and check that, we do, in fact, if you add those up, get the answer of 3/4. So yes, this one does check out. Let's try another one. Let's look at number 3. All right, on number 3. Again, we want to try to get common denominator. If we're going to add these together, let's get a common denominator. If we look at our denominator, 6, x minus 2, and 2. What's our common denominator? We're going to need the quantity, x minus 2. We also need to find what is the lowest common multiple, or least common multiple of 6 and 2. Well, 6 goes into 6, and 2 is a multiple of 6, so 6 would be our common denominator. So now we got to figure out what are you going to multiply each one by to get that. The first fraction doesn't have the x minus 2. The second fraction, that one's missing the 6, so we're going to have to times both by 6. So the last one on the right-hand side, that needs a couple things here. What do we have to multiply this last one by? We got to multiply by 3 to get 6, and the quantity x minus 2. So we also got to multiply the top by 3 and x minus 2. All right, let's do some multiplying on top. 5 times x, 5x. 5 times 2 minus 10. Plus, we got a plus sign right here, plus 2 times 6 is 12. All right, on our right side, 3 times 1 is going to be 3. We got to distribute it. We get 3x minus 6. All right, again, we got a fraction equals a fraction. If we cross multiply, our denominators would cancel each other out. So we're left with our numerator. 5x, let's combine these two like terms, plus 2 equals 3x minus 6. If we continue solving, well, we should get the answer. Subtract 3. Minus 2 from negative 6. Get negative 8. Divide. And it looks like our answer is negative 4. Again, we should double check, check out our answer. This one, again, does check out. That's it. All right. For the next day, I want you guys to try, see if you can solve number 4 and 5 on your worksheet. Get the common denominator, combine them together, and solve for your answers. So try 4 and 5 out. See if you can get the solutions for that one for x. Again, remember to check your answer when you're done. The next day, we'll look at doing some of the problems on the back.